looked over and she's like, oh, okay.
Okay, that one.
Well, it's funny because they went through a stretch and it's like, Draymond, okay, you hit your first two, you're still Draymond Green. And hi, this is Quentin Post. Well, Quentin, you're a rookie and you're not quite ready. And Pods got on the heater fine.
Yeah,
that's different, but
really good.
And even like the Jimmy Butler one, line drive Jimmy, I call him, where he rises up from the corner and Jimmy goes up to shoot a three, and it's like Nolan Ryan. That thing is an absolute laser beam.
Yeah, if you've been a Warrior fan for a while, there's some Rod Higgins in the Jimmy Butler outside shot.
But the Buddy Hield experience is like all the different buddies, like Buddy, and then Buddy, and then like he hits the side of the backboard, he dribbles it off his leg.
Yep.
Then he gets back-to-back steals and hits 2 threes.
He was fantastic in the end. If you watched on TV, you saw that Shaq basically did his halftime breakdown on all the things that Buddy was doing wrong.
Tell me what he said.
Well, I couldn't hear what he said. I was at a sports bar, but Buddy, you're going to need to hit some shots and stop hitting the side of the backboard. So, yeah, like...
That's all I needed from you.
I mean, like, he's got a highlight package of Buddy missing shots, hitting the backboard. It's classic Buddy. And then Buddy comes out, and he did do some really good things in the first half, too, as we'll talk to Steve about. Steve Kerr basically said Buddy Hield set the tone for the game on defense, which is bananas.
Yeah.
Bananas. But then he hit some shots in the second half. It was one of his better moments as a Warrior. And for me, the fan experience of watching Buddy Hield is very similar to what often develops between parent and child, which is to say, you root for this person like you root for no other. And when he does well, the joy that pours out of your heart is overwhelming. At the same time, he makes you yank most of the hairs out of your head. He drives you nuts on a daily basis. He makes you question every decision. He makes you want to sit him down and talk to him on a daily basis because of the wayward decisions that he is making with his life. And just when you think you can't take it anymore, splash in Şengün's face, and you want to take him to dinner.
Yeah.
That's the Buddy Hield experience. I have that experience every day.
With one of your various kids.
It's
that
in
you
my
have.
house.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. You got 11, 15, and 18.
I should probably start calling him Buddy.
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 Yeah, seriously.
Hey.
Like, do your homework. Dad, no, I don't want to. And next thing you know, he's like doing something nice for his sister or walking the dog or cleaning up his room. It's like, I was down on you, but not anymore.
Your impression has way too many words. There's never, Dad, I don't want to.
It's a grunt. Totally.
If you're even able to get a sound. Sometimes you can't even get a sound. There's no sound.
It's interesting because I'm at the other end of the spectrum
you
where
a lot of sounds.
My 2.5-year-old, all she does is offer words. And it's like, sometimes the commentary is too much. I wouldn't mind just like a grunt or a yes or a no. I get full elaborate answers from a 2.5-year-old.
Let's go out to the Boxer and Gerson Work Injury Attorneys text line, where 408 has texted in, Buddy is the guy in the office everybody loves. The guy you root for to succeed. And when he does, you're happy for him because you feel he deserves it. Here's the part that you're leaving out. He's also the guy that microwaves food without a paper towel over the top so that it explodes all over the microwave and then he doesn't clean it up.
Yeah. Or microwaves fish. Like, if you're the person who brings fish to work.
I did that to you one time.
Dude.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
It was way back in the beginning.
Yes.
I was like, dude, chill. I get to eat whatever I want.
You do. But if you're the person who brings fish in and microwaves it in a small office.
I get it.
Yeah. Famously, Haberman and Middlecoff had food brought in and it was like curry. Curry! And it like ruined the studio for like 3 days.
You can't do that.
Right. I mean, that's kind of the Buddy Hield experience. And I'm just looking at his game log. Curry! They're up 6-2, and there's a steal. Pods breaks it loose, and Buddy gets it. And it's a 1-on-2-ish. And Buddy just shoots from 27. I mean,
you know what's funny? In the
I'm just gonna
moment,
shoot it.
Like looking back at it, and that was one of the clips that Shaq played, which is like, what are you doing? Why are you shooting this with basically a layup sitting there for you?
And Curry is trailing the play. Like, if you penetrate and just flip it behind you, well, now Steph gets that same open 27-footer.
So did Steve introduce Buddy to Steph again? I don't know. We can ask Steve here in an hour. But yeah, in the moment, though, I got it because I was like, yeah, Buddy, like, shoot an open three. Because I'm pretty sure if you drive this to the hole or if you try to throw a pass, it's going to turn into a turnover.
For sure.
I'm sure that it will. But then he missed it.
Yep.
He missed the three.
60 seconds later, Pods penetrates, and they kick to Buddy, and it's listed in the NBA.com box score as Hield three-point jump bank shot. It's a shot from the corner, and it's listed as a bank shot.
That's a bank shot.
Because you know what? It turned out to be a bank shot. It hit the top corner of the backboard and then careened out. So his first two efforts were a 1-on-2 27-foot heat check minute into the game and then a bank shot from the corner. Buddy, come on.
What are you doing?
Right?
And then?
Buddy
will win you the game. Hey, my guy.
Totally.
My guy. All right. How about Emmanuel in San Jose? Hey, Emmanuel, what's going on?
How you doing, guys? Doing a great job out there. Got a couple of pointers for you guys. I want to see what you guys think about it.
Okay.
Number one, why is it that Draymond Green is so phenomenal and he can stop Şengün where he can't score a bucket in the fourth quarter, and yet we threw three guys at him in the third quarter and they couldn't stop the guy? And if you look at his game, it is, he goes in, he does this tornado moves, and that's all there is into it. Why can't he do anything better with that? That's point number one.
Because Draymond's a brilliant defender, Emmanuel. That's why, this is a generational defender.
Phenomenal. Yeah, but they should learn from him.
Yeah, but
they should learn from him because
that's like saying somebody should watch Steph shoot and just do that too. You know what I mean?
Like Patrick Mahomes. You all should be having the underhand pass in your repertoire.
This guy's just brilliant. But anyway, what's your second point?
Second point. How do you see us compare against Cleveland?
Ooh, boy, you're really jumping ahead. Okay, thanks, Emmanuel.
Cleveland?
Boy, you want to talk about something my mind is not even on, which is the Western Conference Finals or the NBA Finals.
I mean,
I'm not even to Minnesota yet. Not even close. This is going to be hard tomorrow. Really hard.
Agreed. I told you yesterday that I thought they'd win in 5. I thought they'd win game 4, and I thought they'd go to Houston, and the veterans would close them out. But after the way that game went last night, I'm less confident about game 5. I'm not more confident up 3-1. I'm less confident because of exactly what it took to win that game. It took everything you had, and Houston played pretty well by and large. They had a couple of boneheaded mistakes late, but in general, and Grandy, you had a great comment about the 9-minute stretch, the first 4 minutes of the first quarter, and the first 5 minutes, I think, of the third quarter, and the Warriors outscored them 38 to... Give me the numbers, because when you said it, I almost crashed my car.
First 4:20 of the first quarter, 16-4 Warriors. First 4:40 of the third quarter, 18-1 Warriors. So in those 9 minutes, it was 34-5 Warriors. In the other 39 minutes of the game, 101-75 Houston.
Yeah.
I mean, that, if I wasn't going 1 mile an hour, I probably would have had a fatal car crash.
No,
I was literally in park. 101-75.
The way they started the halves was absolutely out of control.
So when you look at the totality of that game, 101-75 for 39 of the 48 minutes, the Rockets were the better team in that game. And I
know what you mean.
Yeah.
I don't know. You cherry pick when you're like, let's just take these minutes and let's take away all the good minutes. And then the Rockets were the better team. If you want to say they were the better team for more of the minutes,
right?
I'll buy that. But you know what I've learned, and I think we learned this over and over in the NBA playoffs, and it's an impossible mistake to stop thinking about, but the games have nothing to do with the previous game.
You're right.
Like every game totally has its own personality. And so I feel the same things you feel, and you want to apply them to tomorrow night, you can't. That the tomorrow night is its own. Is Fred VanVleet doing that tomorrow night?
Yeah,
No,
probably not. Probably not.
But is Jalen Green going to come back and score 25? Might.
The one constant for them has been Şengün,
Right.
and he's been phenomenal. And, to the caller's point about why can't the rest of them do what Draymond does? And you're right. Like, Draymond is a generational, all-time elite defender.
Yep.
And even at that, what Draymond does is he's not as big as Şengün, but he knows how to be vertical. He knows how to move laterally. He knows how to accept the brunt of that first hit, because you saw Şengün and he was just dropping the shoulder into everybody, GP2 and whoever was guarding him, and just moving you deeper. You can't do that to Draymond Green because he's sturdy like that.
Yep. He's just brilliant. He's a brilliant defender, and thankfully he had not been thrown out of the game or gotten his sixth foul yet. And so it worked out. You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ, FM, and HD1 San Francisco, and Odyssey Sports Station, always live on the free Odyssey app, and now coming to you live from the Laughing Monk Studios. How about, let's go to Mike in Hayward. Hey, Mike, thanks for calling.
How you guys doing? One thing I don't understand about the NBA now, I ask you guys, that coach from Houston, what's his name?
Ime Udoka.
Okay, so I look at some film of him, look at what he was doing. He's the same kind. He's out there instigating things that he's on the floor half the time. No technical, no nothing. I mean, he's just doing role model what he wants them to do, which to me it takes away from the game. And I know it's a physicality game; it's hard to wrestle game, but also you're using that right, trying to get an advantage, which I think is don't make no sense to me. Right? Why don't you just tell your players how to play? And stop trying to act like you're mean-mugging everybody, and that's going to help them win. It ain't helped them win yet.
Well, here's the thing, Mike. I mean, what you're essentially getting to, and Mike, thanks for the call. You're essentially getting to the core of who Ime Udoka is as a player. Like, these Rockets players that you're watching, this is exactly how Udoka played as a player. Reggie Miller was talking about this during the broadcast last night. They reflect their coach. And so you can say, hey, why is this coach doing that? Purposefully. He's doing that on purpose. He wants them to play this way. He thinks that it has given them an advantage. And by the way, if you look at their season in total, I don't even know how you can argue with it. They won 52 games, and they don't have a one-on-one scorer. They don't shoot the ball well. They're a bad free throw shooting team, and they won 52 games. And they've done that with defense, intimidation, challenging people, physicality, all of that. He was the exact same way as a player. So, yes, this is not an accident. Like, this stuff is very much being coached, and they're doing a good job of reflecting their coach.
They are, and, Houston is built for this in the playoffs. And in the regular year, they were 14th in points. It's not like they couldn't score. They weren't an anemic offense, but when the chips are down, they rely on that. They rely on Ime Udoka, toughness, defense, and a lot of their offense comes from their defense, where they want to turn you over, they want to get out into the fast break offense, and they want to use their youth and athleticism to score when you're not ready with your defense totally aligned. And I think you mentioned it, that the team in this series that has won the turnover battle in each and every game. And the Warriors had 8 turnovers yesterday.
It's a great number.
It's a phenomenal number, which means, all right, Houston, you can get offensive rebounds, and they only had 13, but the rest of it, you're going to have to earn in the half court. And that's where Fred VanVleet, I'll give him his flowers, because he was phenomenal, and Alperen Şengün was unguardable. So beyond those two, if it was a game where the Warriors were going to turn it over the usual number, then the Warriors would have lost.
Yeah.
Because, those two players in the half court were phenomenal for Houston.
That's all I'm looking at in the box score.
Yeah.
Each game, someone has had, between 13 and 16 turnovers, and the other team has had between 8 and 11. And the team that has between 8 and 11 has won all 4 games. That's it.
Yep.
That's it. And by the way, who's got the Warrior focus on that more than anyone? Jimmy Butler. He walked in here and basically said it. I'm allergic to turnovers. Let's stop doing it. And the Warriors have largely responded, even though Steph and Draymond are very, very prone to this stuff, and continue to be, by the way. You know, I think of the 8, I think Steph had 4 of them last night, right?
Draymond had 1.
Yeah.
In, obviously limited minutes, but as long as it's not Steph and Draymond, if it's Steph or Draymond,
I agree with you, yeah.
Then you can kind of tolerate if one of them has a little bit of a sloppy game. And the biggest takeaway for me in the win is that Steph Curry was, and I guess I'll say ordinary.
Yeah, just not himself, not quite himself, not his best.
Air balls.
Air balls. Yeah.
2 of 8 from 3, 17 points. He was like just kind of an ordinary guy.
Just never got into a flow. Like he never was able to even consistently get shots and looks, let alone make them when he did. But the ones he did hit,
couple of biggies in the fourth.
The 2 seconds on the shot clock, and Şengün goes flying by him, and he nails that 3. They needed that
big time.
3.
And if you want to look at like the minutia as to why Houston lost, that was one of the big ones on an inbound play where you get it to Steph and it's a pump fake, and you're Şengün. The one thing you can't do there is to buy the pump fake.
Fly by. You're 7 feet.
Right.
All you have to do is stand there. Even if he gets a shot off over you, it's not going to be a good one.
Yep.
Yeah, Warriors are winning with their brains.
And they had another inbound play in the fourth quarter where they were able to get 4 or 5 passes, and I think that's where they found Jimmy Butler on a cut. Draymond cuts to the middle of the key, and he dumped it down to Jimmy, and Jimmy scored, which was a drawn-up play. And I mentioned the Jabari Smith, like, boneheaded 3, the unnecessary 3 that he took, and then, Brooks staggering into Jimmy Butler on a 3-point shot.
Wow.
The little plays that weren't heady were made by the Rockets.
Yep, and that's largely been the case. I mean, I know these games feel tight. I know the series feels tight. I won't argue that it's not, but the only time the Rockets have come out on top over the Warriors, it is when unforeseen chaos suddenly showed up. Jimmy Butler is knocked out of the game. Pods is puking or whatever's going on and getting 0 points and 0 boards. And you just end up in a spot where you're like, oh gosh, we've got to suddenly turn to players who have not been playing in 3 weeks, if not more. And then meantime, their best perimeter scoring is just careering it all over the place. And all of that added up to what? What did the Rockets win that one by? 11? All of that added up to about an 11-point home win in a desperation situation. So, yes, yesterday was razor thin, and you could argue that the Warriors should have lost. But if you want to take the view from 10,000 feet, the Rockets have only been able to get over the top of the Warriors' brains when kind of like a lot of wacky stuff went the wrong way.
Yeah. Even in the regular year where Steph Curry goes 1 for 10 and 3 points, that was a game that they only won by 10 points, and the Warriors had 20 turnovers, and Curry made 1 basket. So, yeah, games that are way, way outside the pale, and that's why I look at last night even more as a game that I'm not stunned that the Warriors won, but that's one that they kind of stole because Şengün was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Fred VanVleet was electric. And your best player, Steph Curry, was ordinary. And yet through it all, you made the plays to win it.
Yeah, you won. And it's like sometimes you have to remind yourself of that where you're like, ooh, we got outplayed for most of the game. Okay, listen to what Dibbs just said and add that all up to you won.
Yeah.
So how do you feel today if you're the Rockets?
Oh, gutted.
I would be pretty discouraged. Like the scenarios that you needed to play out did. You still lost.
Yep.
Ouch. I mean, I'm not saying, I don't think it's in their DNA to do what happens sometimes. When you fall down 3-1, what you're looking for is for a team to lose its spirit. And I don't think that that's going to happen to the Rockets tomorrow night. I don't know who's going to win this game, but I don't think the Rockets are going to come out dispirited. I do think, though, that they've now arrived at a spot where you're like, how do we climb this mountain? Like, if all of these things kind of landed in our lap last night, we still couldn't get a victory, and now we've got to somehow beat this team 3 times in a row. That feels like an assignment for which you do not have the resources to complete.
It's a tall order, no doubt. I mean, you can do it once, and then you get on a plane to come back here, and can you do it a second time here? I mean, it's possible, but it would take a massive effort. And as I mentioned, only 4% of teams down 3-1 in a best of 7 come back to win that best of 7.
we've got a lot of 3-1 series tonight. They've reached the half in Indiana. The Bucks are only up by 6. And I say that because, did that surprise you?
Well, because they were down like 15-0.
And they were up 20. The Bucks built a 20-point lead, and the Pacers have all but erased it before halftime. And so the Pacers will go into the second half with an opportunity to end Giannis's season early yet again.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that at some point this offseason that won't be a topic for us. I mean, Giannis out in the first round and Dame Lillard, some would argue, first of all, I think next season is gone. And that injury at that age, I don't know if Dame Lillard's ever going to really play great basketball ever again. He really might not.
Well, he'll probably miss the whole year next year.
Right, but at his age, that Achilles injury is usually, I don't want to call it a career ender, but it's a career ender at the level he was at, for sure.
Well, especially the way he plays.
Yes.
Like, you think about Kobe Bryant, and when he had his Achilles injury, he was never the same player again.
And I think that's probably...
He was a little bit older than Lillard is now.
But Lillard is 34. He's 34. He's about to turn 35, and he'll be about to turn 36 when he's ready to play basketball again. So, I don't know, man. That feels like that has run its course as far as that being a pairing that's going to go somewhere. And so, sure, I think, we may arrive at that at some point where I don't know how the Warriors season's going to end.
Yep.
I think I know how the Bucks season's going to end. I don't know what Giannis is going to want. By the way, some odds came out today.
Oh.
I mean, we can do this just for a minute, and then we'll get back to the phones.
Just 5 seconds real quick.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant was 34 when it happened to him.
Same age.
Yeah.
In fact, a little bit younger because Dame is turning 35 in 2 months.
Yeah, Kobe was turning 35 4 months after it happened.
Okay, so it's almost the
identical.
Exact same age. But I saw this today. Giannis next team odds. Where do you think the Warriors fall on the list?
I would say probably third or fourth.
They are fifth.
Okay.
They are fifth. Yeah. Yes.
I thought I'd get to that.
Wrong.
Yeah, sorry, Grandy. I'm a little faster.
Warriors are 8-1. The team that I thought would be even higher, though, is the Miami Heat, who are behind the Warriors at 10-1. You'll never guess the favorite because I don't know why Giannis would want to go here, but it's the Brooklyn Nets. But guess who's number 2? This is why I bring it up.
The Rockets.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what they need.
Yep. They're hunting for somebody. They're hunting for a one.
Yep. There's no doubt about it. All right. Steve Kerr, less than an hour. More of your phone calls. We got a lot of you who want to weigh in. Stay right where you are. We're coming to you. We're sponsored by Safeway. This is Willard and Dibs.
Podziemski shoveled over to Butler. Pump fake, flyby. Back up top, Podziemski. He's open for three. Got it! The Warriors have come out of the locker room and have scored 13 straight points. And they lead by 6 after trailing by 7 at the break.
Podziemski.
Bay Area, it's Brandon Podziemski. Catch my head coach Steve Kerr with Willard and Dibs each and every week right here on 95.7 The Game.
Woo, BP! That was a nice performance for Brandon Podziemski's last night. Yeah. Real good performance.
Podziemski. That's my Shams.
Podziemski.
Yeah.
Deminsky.
I'm happy with my Shams. Podziemski.
Your Shams is strong.
Thank you. One word, Shams.
I know.
Podziemski.
I do have a new favorite, though, because the one you just played before Shams there, Grandy, I've got to imagine, of all the mispronunciation sensations that we have, there's only one that doesn't even start it with a P. Like
Deminsky.
Jaminski. We got Jaminski. Brandon Jaminski.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. Brandon Jaminski.
Yeah.
So, anyway, he was phenomenal last night. And
Brandon hopes to have the same career that Mike Jaminski had. 14 years in the association.
That'll work.
A nice little career.
I don't know, though. He wants to be an all-star. He told us he wanted to be the future face of the Warriors.
And when he said that, I think we both turned our mics off and laughed. But the more he plays, the more the things that he says are like, oh, okay, Pods.
I'm not saying
I'm not laughing anymore.
No, I'm not saying I believe that. But if Jimmy Shapiro were to send us betting odds right now on the post-Steph Curry face of the Warriors, oh boy, I'm going to anger the hell out of everybody.
No, don't even say his name.
No, has he not moved past Jonathan Kuminga? Has he not?
Deminsky was scrapping.
Yes or no?
I mean, yes, I don't even want to bring up Jonathan Kuminga because you're not bringing up Kevin Knox. You're not bringing up Pat Spencer. You know who you should be bringing up? And God love him. He went out there and did his level best. Trace Jackson Davis. I mean, victimized.
That was Nation. It's Trace Jackson Davis.
Well, that was a failed experiment is what that was.
Who are you?
I get it.
He had no choice. Kevon Looney was patently bad in the first half.
Kevon struggled.
And Draymond Green was in foul trouble.
Yeah.
And, hi, this is Quentin Post. He's not ready for that level of defense. So you know what? You look down the bench and you go, hey, kid. Hey, TJD.
Go guard Steven Adams.
Well, and also I think he had Şengün a couple times.
Yes.
What's weird is in the moment, so there's a timeout, and I'm in the arena, and I look over at the bench, and I was trying to see where Draymond was, and I couldn't find him, and I thought, you know what, he's probably on the bike. Because, Draymond, he was in the tunnel for a long time staying loose, and I look over, and Trace Jackson Davis is jumping up and down, not like excitedly, but it looked like he was warming up. And the next thing you know, he's in the game. And I was like, okay, Kerr.
Yeah.
All right, Steve. Chestnut checkers. And then.
Checkers.
Yeah.
Checkmate.
Checkers, kind of.
Yeah.
But, we can ask him about it at 5.
We definitely will. Today's one of those days where, we're going to have to organize our thoughts. That game in and of itself led to 19 questions.
For sure.
And then, we like to ask some other stuff, too. You know what I mean? Like, what are you eating? What are you eating tonight? Kerr? What are you doing right now in Houston? You even know where you are?
Yeah.
I'd like to get some of that in there too, but I'm going to eat it. Last night was one of those games where, okay, did you want to foul when you were up 3? Take us through getting the delay game called on you. You put Trace Jackson Davis in the game. You started Buddy Hield. All of that stuff. And so we'll get to all of it with Steve Kerr here at 5 o'clock, a little bit over a half hour. Thank you for being with us. And oh, by the way, those of you who watch on YouTube, we did have a brief, about 45 minutes ago, a brief technical difficulty. And what happens when that happens is did you all just get knocked off? And then you're just spinning out in the internet sphere. So anyway, it's rebooted. Get your butt back over to YouTube because we love connecting with you there, number one. And number two, Steve Kerr's coming up in 37 minutes. And so that's a great place to bring it all in. So get back up over to YouTube. Let's go to Rachel on 280. Hi, Rachel. What's up?
Hi. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Not important, but I'm not on 280 anymore because I've been waiting for a while. But anyway.
Where are you, Rachel?
I am in San Mateo now.
You're now in San Mateo. Well, congratulations on your arrival, and thank you for staying with us so long.
Thank you. I listen to your show almost every day. Love it. I would also love there to be more female callers.
Us too.
I know occasionally we'll get a female voice, but I'm just shout out to all the ladies listening. I'd love to hear more females. So I have an observation and then a comment / concern about Draymond. I noticed this. I think Pods did this in Game 3, and one of the Rockets players did this last night. But when a call is made and the player is like, oh, that's a good call, they twirl their finger, and it's almost as if they're, I don't know if you call this taunting, but they're wanting the opposing team's coach to use a challenge. And I don't know if, other folks have noticed this, but
yes.
it kind of made me think, like, is that considered taunting? I don't know. But that's where my mind went.
Well, Rachel.
And then
yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
And then my comment / concern about Draymond, tomorrow night, we're obviously going to be in Houston, and this is basically Game 7 for the Rockets, right? So they're going to come out with more force, more aggression, more desperation. I know Draymond walks the line, and that's why so many of us love him, but he's got to keep his cool. We cannot afford for him to be ejected. And I think Houston would be quite pleased if he was out of the game. And so whatever he needs to do to be himself but not lose his mind, that's going to help us win Game 5. So I hope that he can do that and, keep his aggression.
Rachel, it's a great call, and I think we all thank you so much for calling. Please call again. And we all, I think, have that exact same kind of emotion when you're watching Draymond, which is you want him to hit the brakes. Like, dude, tap it down and have that awareness. I thought it was interesting after the game last night when he spoke on this. And he's done this before where he kind of takes that emotion that we as fans have where we're like, dude, you got to know better. You got to not get yourself thrown out and all that. And he flatly said, look, the bottom line is I cannot play fearful of being ejected from the game. I will completely lose my edge. And so I do try. I have the same emotions, the same frustrations at times with Draymond. Last night was one of them. I thought he was going to get thrown out when they were reviewing the play with Tari Eason. I really thought it was a high-level possibility he was going to get thrown out. But I think we gotta give those guys a little bit of room. In other words, deal with some of the things that frustrate us as fans and acknowledge that those things are just a part of also the whole package. And the whole package is a total necessity for the Warriors.
It is, but there are times where I think that it's unnecessary for him to get a technical foul. Last night probably wasn't one of them, but you look at the reality of the situation. If you want to go on a deep run, well, you have to be wary, not weary, but wary of your totals. Because if you get to 4 flagrant points, you get suspended. If you get to 7 technical fouls, you get suspended. And you can't afford to have Draymond Green be suspended for a game. And right now, he's got 1 flagrant and he's got 3 technical fouls. Yep. So you've only got 3? He's got 3.
Oh.
You got 3 techs.
I missed one.
Yeah. And this is according to FoxSports.com. They've got the updated list. Through 4 games, he's got a flagrant and 3 techs. And I know he got a tech in the last game. Remember, he said, well, I felt like it was the right time for me to get one.
Yeah, Game 3, after I think it was an offensive possession. Yeah, after an offensive possession where he did not get a foul called, he sprinted down the floor, not to get back on defense, but to get in the face of an official.
I remember that one. I'm not remembering the technical in Houston.
I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, let me look it up.
I'm just going by the FoxSports.com stats, and I'm going to play the percentages and say he probably got one in Houston. And, it was a volatile crowd, and there was a FU Draymond chants and the whole thing. So I do agree with him when he says he needs to play with that emotion. You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall. I understand that. But we've also seen this where he accumulates these points and you get into a spot where now you're going to have to sit out a game, and maybe it's game 5 or 6 against Minnesota or the Lakers in the next round, or maybe it's against OKC in the Western Conference Finals. I don't know. And once you get to that point where you get suspended, then it's every other technical foul. You also get suspended,
Absolutely.
It's a slippery slope.
I'm looking through this thing. There were no technical fouls in the game at all, game 1. Game 2, both teams had 3.
Yeah, the Warriors lost that game, right?
Yes, correct. Draymond must have had one of them. I have not been able to find the individual technical foul calls.
Okay.
But just the
I
fact
see Tari Eason has 2. Amen Thompson has 2. Steven Adams has 1. Dylan Brooks has 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just looking again. This is at foxsports.com, the only website that actually tracks this.
I'm sure they're right. I'm sure they're right. But,
Steph Curry's got 1.
Well, yeah.
Bad boy. Bad boys for life.
Stupid ass text. So actually, that goes to what Rachel was asking about. So she said, how about when a foul gets called and the player immediately goes over to the other team's bench, twirls the finger like, go ahead, review it.
That's Pods, right?
Dog.
Pods did that.
Absolutely. The Warriors, again, you know me, the Warriors are not immune. I'm not going to do that in these playoffs and come in here and be like, so the Warriors are innocent flowers and all of the other teams are mean and they're big muscular jerks and the refs should control them. No. Like Pods flopped a bunch of times yesterday. Jimmy Butler is brilliant with the way that he drew foul calls. This is all teams all the time. And is that taunting? I mean, sure. By the definition of the word, it is. Do I want something called there? No. But the point I'm making out of that is I also don't want a technical called on Steph Curry because he held up 2 fingers at Dylan Brooks. I don't understand how you can pick out anything in these playoffs and decide that that's taunting. Like, there's taunting then on every play.
Yeah.
By almost every player.
Well, and a lot of this comes down to what is the result of an action. So if Steph Curry does that and Dylan Brooks flies off the handle, well, then it becomes a bigger incident than if Pods just twirls his finger toward the bench and nobody even pays him any mind. Well, that's just a guy twirling his finger. If Steph Curry taunts, quote unquote, Dylan Brooks and Brooks reacts, now it's an incident that as a referee, you feel like you need to adjudicate on both sides, because if you look at it, it's like, well, Steph Curry caused this reaction,
right?
Even though all he did is hold up 2 fingers.
Yeah,
and I'm with you.
I was looking up at the TV because just moments ago, there's an offensive foul called on the Milwaukee Bucks, and Miles Turner was very pleased by that, and he clapped in the face of Gary Trent. He clapped in his face 5 times.
Right in the face?
In the face. He was taunting him, Dibs.
He's just clapping. He's celebrating a call.
Hand the ball over to the team and start going the other way.
Your point is well taken in that there's a lot of this at all times on all sides, but the reason why it got called last night, I feel, is because it got escalated into a situation.
I agree, but that's Dylan's fault. Like, how many times do we need to be relearn the lesson in life that, like, you are what you are when you react to bad things? Like, that's on you. If somebody pointing at you incites you to punch at the ball and get into it with somebody who's still on the ground, that's on you. That's on you. I'm sorry. And this isn't me like being like, oh, Dylan Brooks is the only bad guy on the floor. He's not. He's not. But in that particular situation, I'm not going to blame Steph Curry laying on the ground on his back because something bothered Dylan. Because Dylan bothers people for a living. He'd be the first one to tell you that.
It was a reputation tech on Steph.
On Steph.
The refs know that he's the petty king. You can't be the petty king and also be the baby-faced assassin.
Petty.
Yeah. The petty king got caught.
Oh, I love
That's
it.
what happened. He got caught.
It's a fun nickname. That was quite a moment when we said that to Steve Kerr last week, and it was like he'd never heard it before. He's like, did you give him that nickname?
Right.
No, he gave himself that nickname. You missed that? How do you miss that? I get jealous of Steve sometimes because he's not in that social media fray.
Right.
He's like, I never even heard that before. Like, wow. I wish I'd never heard of that before.
He's got other things going on.
Yeah, he does.
And he's been off Twitter for 5-6 years now. It's been a long time.
Long time.
Even Steiny came crawling back to Twitter.
He won't admit it, though.
He's back.
He's on there. Hassan in Milpitas. Hi, Hassan. What's up?
What's up, guys? Warriors!
Let's go.
Hey, I don't know if you guys saw this stat last night, but they put up this stat. It said first team to 100 was like 25-2, and as soon as they did that, Rockets go up to 100 points, and I was just like shaking. I was like, "Oh man, it's over."
25-3.
Number two, I wanted to ask.
Go ahead, Hassan.
Yeah, number two, sorry about that. Number two, I wanted to ask those TJD minutes, man. Like, what? I mean, 3 quick fouls. I mean, like, how do we get this guy prepared for his next opportunity? Thanks, guys.
Hassan, here's something that I've done, at least in these playoffs, and you do this however you want. When somebody gets thrown into the game in the emergency break glass situation, I'm going to assess it a little bit differently. So this goes to Jonathan Kuminga in game 2. This goes to Pat Spencer in game 2. This goes to Trayce Jackson-Davis in game 4.
Hi, this is Guy Santos.
Right. Guy Santos, who, by the way, wow, he's kind of milk carting this whole thing here in the last couple of games.
He got 1 minute last night.
Yeah, like I just, when you don't know you're a part of the game plan and something goes awry and the coach turns around and points at you and goes, get in there, and you were like hanging out over there in the with the low minute people, as we've learned, they're now called. Like, I don't know, man. That's a tough spot. And he was asked to basically go in there solely for defense to guard a very hot Şengün and an incredibly large Steven Adams. That's a very difficult assignment. So I'm not going to come down his road for, quote, not being ready. I just don't. That just didn't work out. That didn't work out. If you get that, now this is why I assessed Kuminga differently in game 3. If you get the ramp up and you know you're playing, and oh, by the way, you're starting, if you know all that and you practice for a couple days getting ready for that, and you still go out there and look lost, that's different to me. So I'm going to give TJD some space for last night.
I didn't think Kuminga looked lost, but it's pretty clear.
I thought he did.
It's pretty clear that they were not putting him back in the rotation last night. He didn't even get Guy Santos's singular minute. So JK, again, was a DNP coach's decision, and TJD only played because of the situation, which was desperate. You had Kevon, who was not good, and I don't think that it's a good matchup for him because of, the athleticism of Şengün and the size of Steven Adams. It's going to be hard for anybody to keep Steven Adams off the glass. And so, Draymond in foul trouble, really grave foul trouble, and Kevon not playing great, and Quentin Post had already played a bunch of minutes in that third quarter, so you needed to go to the 4-stringer, and there you go, TJD. And he only committed 2 fouls officially, and one of them, and I'm looking at the play right now where Gary's guarding Şengün, and he just jumps out to block the shot, and he just crashes into Şengün, and it's like, he's a little overeager, trying to make a play.
And then the other one, he was trying to box out Adams on the free throw line and ended up just getting taken for he looked like he got into a carriage and got driven around the zoo. It was like, oh my gosh, Steven Adams is a gargantuan human being, and he looked like it standing next to TJD.
Well, and that's a very difficult thing, and he and Gary are both trying to block off Steven Adams, and those 2 fouls, by the way, happened 1 second apart, because he fouled Şengün, and on the very subsequent free throw miss, that's when he fouled Steven Adams. Exactly. It's like, okay. And then he did have the 1 shot attempt where he tried to go up and finish at the rim, and it's like, oh, man.
Yeah.
Again, no disrespect.
No, it was tough.
He did his level
tough
best.
Moment.
Very tough moment, and a tough matchup, too. And you think about a future series, if it's Minnesota, well, it's not going to get much easier against those bigs.
Wouldn't think so. They're not necessarily quite as physical, but they're even taller. Rudy Gobert and everything they've got going on their front line. But then again, I'm going to stop every time we start assuming that the Warriors and Timberwolves are going to play. Please hold. All right, let's go to Ryan in Madison, Wisconsin. Hi, Ryan. What's going on?
It's actually Brian. Nice to talk to you guys.
Hey, Brian. Hey, say hi to Lucas, director of sports, and get him some Q-tips.
I shall.
All right.
I just heard you guys earlier saying people were complaining about Kerr. He's the best coach in the NBA today. He may be the best professional sports coach in the country right now. And I don't, it's just ridiculous. That's number one. Number two is, yeah, sure, the refs are always wrong. I think people just aren't used to seeing defense. Because 72 games, no one's playing defense. And all of a sudden you get into the playoffs and everyone's playing defense. And number three, hey, Dan, we went to high school together.
Wait, hold on a minute. Who is this? Brian who?
You are on my shoulders in the MCAL championship in 1986.
You know, that's very likely. What a football team we had that year in the MCALs.
You were on his shoulders? What were you doing up there?
I was probably leading the student section in cheers for our Marin Catholic Wildcats, who went on to win the North Coast section only to play De La Salle at the Coliseum and get summarily rocked, Brian, if I'm not wrong on that.
Yeah, I remember that. It was. I don't think it was that. I think it was for a picture that ended up in the paper, and there you were, center, and no one could see me.
That sounds about right. That sounds like me in high school, Brian. Yeah.
Why is he getting on your shoulders?
Because he's short.
Yeah, I wondered.
Yep.
I wondered.
Even shorter then, and very like mascot-ish. Imagine, and yes, I've always referred to myself as a fat red pumpkin.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian. At the time, as a high school senior, I was probably 5'4", and like full red hair and loud and obnoxious as I am now.
I have so many questions right now.
People wanted to I was kind of like the mascot of the senior class and the school.
I want to know what you guys were doing. I want to know why you ended up on the shoulders. I want to know why he feels he'd end up in jail if he said his last name on our show.
That's fair.
Like, what the heck was that all about?
Yeah.
Why'd you clam up when you got asked your last name?
Yeah, that's
we
fair.
give our last name every day. Hell, they're the name of the show.
Literally.
Because he's short.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
I get it.
And now we have
anyway.
that. Thank God I got a little junior college burst to get to 5'8.5".
Burst?
Dude, from 5'4", you have no idea. All you tall people, Lucas, where are you? You're also a shrimp.
He left. I don't know.
He's talking to the boss.
Yeah, I don't know what he's doing.
Anyway, to go from, you're 6'2", and Grandy's about the same, to go from 5'4" to 5'8", you have no idea what a big deal that is.
I do.
It's a huge deal. Like, for you to go from 5'11" to 6'2", big deal. I mean, that's kind of nice.
I know all about what it's like to go.
You don't know the first
I
thing
know
about
exactly
it.
what it's like to go from 5'4" to 5'8". My daughter did it a year ago. I'm sorry.
I mean, I was waiting for the dead air alarm. So again, you don't know what that's about.
I also know what it's like to go from 5'4" to 5'8". I did it when I was in 4th grade.
Exactly. So
That's right.
all the height jokes is great.
Jude's going to do it
clowns
next
have
year.
no idea.
It's all good, dude. It's all good. Standing on the shoulders of giants.
Both of you just wasted height. 6'2", and I'm doing sports
What are you
talk.
talking about?
What a waste.
Knockout finalists. What are you talking about over here? We're brought to you by Fremont Bank. Here for you. Oh, I had to encompass both of us. Just chill. We brought to you by Fremont Bank. Here for you. Here for good. And here for your phone calls, 888-957-9570, but not for much longer. Get in right now if you want to share your experience through the stress of that game last night, because also Steve Kerr is joining us in 18 minutes on Willard and Dibs.
Many things can be life-changing. Going from 5'4" to 5'8" is one of them, but also, how about this? The life-changing Abundant Life Weight Loss Summer Sale is happening, and it's happening all May long, starting May 1st through May 31st. It can be done virtually or in person, and that makes it easy and accessible wherever you are. And this is going to be the lowest price of the year, and there might not be another sale this year, so you don't want to miss out. You can get ahead of your summer goals, feel confident, lighter, and healthier as you step out into
Out to Butler above the arc. He'll take it over Adams. It's good. Rattled it home. Gets the 3 ball. And the Warriors are back up by 4, 88-84. Butler now with 16 on 6 shots. Dub Nation, it's the voice of the Warriors, Tim Roy. You're listening to Willard and Dibbs on 95.7 The Game.
Okay, will you remind me after we share the news that we're about to share with our audience?
Okay.
Remind me to go back to a text exchange that I just had to display how 2 different people can look at the same thing very, very differently.
Okay.
2 good people.
All right.
I think. But faithful listeners of Willard and Dibbs here on 95.7 The Game, we do have a development.
95.7 The Game breaking news.
Steve Kerr's not joining us today.
And that's the breaking news?
Well, it is.
Well, yeah.
Is that not news? Is it not breaking?
Normally the sounder is reserved for signings or injuries or things outside of show booking.
It's breaking news. It's not a show booking issue.
It's a show unbooking is what it is.
It's a rebooking.
Right.
Steve Kerr will join us on Thursday on Willard and Dibbs. The team is safely on the ground in Houston, and as does happen in major cities at 6:45 in the afternoon, the bus is in traffic. Now, why Houston doesn't seem to have the resources for the police escorts that the Golden State Warriors, 4-time champs, so richly deserve, I don't know. I can't speak for their infrastructure.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Right, but that's where we're at. And so Steve Kerr is going to join us on Thursday. If you made plans to be with us at 5 o'clock specifically for that, we love you and thank you. And it does give us the opportunity to actually play around with some of the things that got said last night by both sides. And we'll talk that out. It does open up our 5 o'clock hour for more of your phone calls. 888-957-9570. So call right now if you want to get in on what we're calling the experience game, because that was such a stressful journey. And so many people want to point to one specific play or a different one, or one player or a different one. So 888-957-9570. We have a Rockets player who's taking a shot.
Ooh, at whom? Taking shots down 3-1? You're allowed to, but...
Amen Thompson, is this taking a shot at Draymond? Is it taking a shot at the refs? Or is it both? You decide. Amen Thompson, check it out.
Just talking physical out there. You know, they're just going to let one dude do whatever he wants. And he's not going to get, he should have 2 texts off rip. You know, he can talk to them however he wants. So.
Okay. What Amen Thompson basically said is it's rough out there, it's physical, and there's one guy they let say whatever he wants, and they're not going to do anything about it.
Dillon Brooks. I mean, hello.
Yeah.
I mean,
Dillon Brooks.
So
Dillon Brooks. Amen.
And I love the fact that you're from the Bay, from San Leandro, and all the rest of it. But you are obviously a little bit biased, as are we. But I'm going to look at this from a little bit more of a global perspective and say there are 2 players who are able to, quote unquote, say and do whatever they want. And it is Draymond Green. It's also Dillon Brooks. So I think that Draymond got the benefit of some nuance from the officials. Could they have given him a second technical foul? Sure. I thought that it was a flagrant when he rat-a-tat-tatted Eason's head with his shoes. We've seen it before. It's one of those things where you're going to be a 14-year vet, and even though you have a reputation, the first tech that he got was a reputation tech. I don't think he deserved it. And the second incident where maybe he would have gotten his second tech, they gave him a flagrant, and they probably gave him only a flagrant and not a tech because they don't want to have a star player drummed out of the game unless they absolutely have to.
Yeah, I understand that. But then again, what do we mean they're going to let someone do whatever they want and not do anything about it when the guy has a flagrant and 3 technicals in the series? That is doing something about it. What would you like the referees to do? Call his mom? Like, would have
probably give him more technicals and more, be a little bit harder on Draymond Green.
But actually, like, to me, this is a sign of weakness. This is another sign of the Houston Rockets' immaturity. Like, I guarantee you when Draymond hears this, that's a big, huge smile on his face. Like, the fact that Amen Thompson believes that Draymond Green is getting away with this, that, or the other on the floor is, quite frankly, hilarious. Hilarious. You don't get to feel that way if you're the Houston Rockets. You have Dylan Brooks on your team. You have Ime Udoka as your coach, and you are one of the most physically gifted defensive teams in the league. You have gotten to where you are by instigating. Now, if all you're doing is talking about talking, because Draymond is the biggest talker on the court, well, I'm sorry if that bothers you. That's literally what he's trying to do. And I don't believe that talking should, you and I have had this conversation before. I really don't believe that talking, unless we're talking about really excessive stuff, should ever lead to punishment. You can say whatever the hell you want. I mean, if it really gets out of line, or if it just directly leads to fighting, okay. Or if you just won't stop. Okay, but talking? What is it you would like the league to do because someone's talking?
Right, they're all talking.
He can do whatever he wants.
If you want to talk about who's talking, Jimmy Butler was the one doing the talking last night.
For sure.
When he was, using the B word to talk about Dylan Brooks, and the B word that he was using was not Brooks, I don't believe. I'm not an expert lip reader, but I don't think that he was saying you're a Brooks. I think that he was saying you're something else. So Draymond Green leads the playoffs in technical fouls with 3. So clearly, in 3 of the 4 games, the officials have decided that his talking or his histrionics, his theatrics, whatever it is that Draymond is doing, they are rebuking him with technical fouls. So
exactly.
If Amen is intimating that it is Draymond, I don't know who else he'd be talking about. Maybe he's talking about the chef, and they finally got him.
He's talking about Draymond.
Of course. So then what are we doing here, Amen? Because Draymond's been in the league for 14 years, and if you want to total up all the techs over the last 14 years that Draymond's gotten, he's been in the top 5 in the league in each of the last 10 seasons.
Well, and here's the way I would sort of, and again, this is painting with too broad of a brush, but at the same time, this is how I would describe the instigating nature of Draymond versus the instigating nature of Dylan Brooks. Draymond is much more of a talker. Draymond is probably the most talkative player in the league. Anthony Edwards actually said that recently. They asked him before the playoffs started, there's one team you could go against. Who would it be? He said, Warriors. I want to get the Warriors because Draymond talks the most mess in the whole league, and I want it. So that's interesting, and let's leave that over here in case that series does actually end up happening. But Draymond is much more with the words, and Dylan is much more with the action. Dylan is much more physical. Dylan is, I think, pushes the line a little bit more with hard fouls and acts of, I don't want to call them violence, but similar to what he did with Steph last night, punching at the ball. Dylan leans a little bit more that direction. Draymond leans a little bit more the direction of talking. And to me, what's more legal? The talking part. I'd rather go up against that than somebody who's actually going to give you the shoulder shiver when you're running by. They're both capable of it, but Dylan leans that direction more, don't you think?
He does it in a more direct way.
Yeah, he doesn't talk as much.
No.
He was like meditating in front of the Warriors pregame.
Yeah.
Did you see that clip?
I did.
It's super weird.
And the other thing that I think that we all need to figure out a way to eliminate is what we saw twice last night, and that is like infiltrating the other team's huddle. We all want to huddle.
Yes, I agree with
this.
this.
We all want to huddle, and we huddle at the foul line, and we huddle on the sideline when there's a stoppage or a review. And Draymond Green was all up in the middle of the Rockets huddle. And then later in the game, I think it was
Thompson.
It was Amen Thompson.
It was Thompson.
Who was right up, basically between Draymond Green and Steve Kerr on the sideline. And I know that it's legal because I'm on the court. I'm allowed to be on the court. Hee-haw. Yeah. But do we really need to get to that level of immaturity and petulance and stand in front or stand in the middle of somebody's huddle? That to me is that's going a little too far.
I agree
You're doing
with you.
too much.
Well, it's an interesting take, but and you're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco and Odyssey Sports Station, always live on the free Odyssey app, and now coming to you live from the Laughing Monk Studios. I'm reminded of the somewhat hot debate that you and I got into briefly yesterday with regard to Dillon Brooks potentially trying to injure someone. That's very different than standing in someone's huddle. But I do believe this. Look, you're playing sports. At some level, it's sports. At some level, even though it's intense, it's urgent.
Sports, man.
You badly want to win. I do think that and I hate the word decorum. I really don't like it because it's too stuffy for my taste.
Decorum.
But on some level, you have to remember you're playing sports and there are rules. And you have to fit into that box. So I could go over to the other team's huddle. I could intentionally try to hurt someone. I could go over to the other team's locker room. No one's going to stop me. I could do all of these things, but don't. It's almost like, and I don't want to get uber serious here, but like I've always wondered about the phrase war crimes. I'm like, how do you all go out there with machine guns and then you got rules?
Well, there are rules.
There are.
There should be.
And supposedly there's like, well, we can shoot other people, but we're not supposed to cross that line over there. Okay, that's different, but this is the sports version of that. Like, dude, please just fit in the box for a second. I get it. You're a live wire. You're an amazing athlete. You badly want to win. But yeah, don't try to hurt other people. Don't go get on the other team's bench. Don't be a moron. Like, we're trying to enjoy this and have it be entertaining. Be physical. Do what you need to do, but not by any means necessary.
Yeah, exactly. Unwritten rules is another way to put it. And the NBA has the code. And Steve Kerr talked about how Dillon Brooks broke the code, and he absolutely did when he fouled GP2 in the head. When GP2 was exposed and in the air, he broke the code. There aren't that many other codes in the NBA. One of them is if you're up by 8 with 7 seconds left and you get the ball back, you don't go down and shoot a 3 or dunk. You just dribble out the game. That's the code, right? And you see it all the time. Even though you might be on the side with the team up 8 and you're laying 8.5 and you're thinking, just go shoot a layup. Just give me a layup so we can cover this number. But they don't do that because it's the code. And maybe the code also can be, or maybe it is, like if we're going to huddle, then you don't come and get in our huddle because you're going to huddle. And now I'm going to get in your huddle and you're going to get in my huddle. Now we're going to push each other. It's like, can we have a conversation with teammates and not have you like ear hustling and trying to get in the mix?
I think
kind of lame.
No, it's a very good example that you bring up. Like I think it's kind of one of those things where you almost, despite the intensity, keep the headspace open for, look, they're trying to compete and win. We're trying to compete and win. Let's do that with our group and let them do that with their group. And then, then we go out there and compete and may the best team win. There has to be some sort of a baseline respect for the process, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I like your use of decorum, but it had me thinking about like which fork is the salad fork and,
nobody knows that.
Exactly.
Nobody knows.
Well, the one with the 3 tines, I think, but I never know if I'm setting the table which one goes where and the rest of it. I don't have a lot of decorum, so.
Yeah, me neither. But I think, don't you, like.
Outside in, I believe, right?
Like, as the meal goes, you get the silverware that's closer to your plate. Is that right?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. I never went to any of those classes.
Anytime I get to a restaurant and there's more than just, you can give me 2 forks, a knife, and a spoon. Okay, I can work with that. But if we've got multiple forks, multiple spoons, multiple knives, and if there's silverware across the top, now I'm going to get confused.
Well, no, that's not supposed to be there. We're not doing that. Smaller fork is the salad fork?
I thought so.
Bigger fork is for the meat. Or the pasta.
Yeah. Okay. Again, I'm not known for my decorum.
Hey, where does this fit into decorum? Actually, Granny just sent this to us. I'd love to know your interpretation. So the Warriors just sent out a on social media a video of the guys getting on the plane, and it's a slow-mo of Buddy Hield, not Kyle Anderson. It's a different slow-mo. It's a slow-mo video of Buddy Hield walking toward the plane, and he's wearing a T-shirt that just says, excluding Buddy. Excluding Buddy. Anyone? What does that mean?
So after Game 3, when the Warriors won without Jimmy Butler posted on Instagram like the Batman logo, like the bat symbol, but with Steph's the Curry brand logo instead of the bat signal. And he said, "Thanks, Batman and team, excluding Buddy."
Excluding Buddy.
And didn't Buddy like pine that he wanted to be Alfred, not Albert.
Yes.
Alfred, thank you.
Yes, and Jimmy rejected that roundly.
Right. Jimmy postgame said, "No, Buddy's not in this. He's the evil guy, like the Joker, not Alfred."
I am quickly growing to love the Jimmy Butler Buddy Hield relationship, and if you think there's anything that's in any way serious about it, you should see the moment that the two of them shared by the bench right after the final buzzer last night. There is a whole lot of connection that is based in the way these two make fun of one another.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I didn't see that exchange. I did.
Oh.
I was watching right at the final buzzer and the celebration, the confetti, and I looked over and I wanted to see what Steve Kerr was going to do, handshake or no handshake. And it's just Game 4, so there was no handshake. He immediately turns and beelines toward the tunnel. He takes about 4 steps toward the tunnel, and there, sitting on the bench alone, Wardell, Stephen Curry, and Steve pauses, and he puts out his hand, and it's a big handshake high five, and you can see Steph kind of screaming like, yeah.
Right.
And you can see Steve's big smile on his face, and they have a quick moment with the handshake, and then Steve is just gone.
By the way, I want all of you to hear what happened when they all got into the locker room last night. Take a listen to this. This is Steve Kerr in the locker room addressing a certain Buddy Hield situation. Take a listen.
Hey, fellas, I'm going to utter some words that have never been spoken before by anybody on earth. Buddy Hield, you set the tone defensively.
I'm going to utter some words that no one has ever uttered on earth. Buddy Hield, you set the tone defensively.
That's pretty awesome.
And then the whole place goes nuts.
Yeah.
He was very important last night. He was very important last night.
Absolutely.
And that comes from somebody who at one point hit the side of the backboard with a 3-point shot.
Well, that's how he opened up. He opened up with a heat check 3 90 seconds in the game when no one is hot enough to have a heat check. And then he tried to bank one in from the corner. In between, he had a couple of steals. So the Buddy Hield experience to me is just fascinating. We talked about it a little bit yesterday before the show, and the Jimmy Butler Buddy Hield part of it. I do think that where they come together and they can kind of respect each other at a deep level is just how much they play and how hard they play. Because that comment from Steve Kerr, Buddy's out there trying on defense, and he did set the tone defensively by getting in front of Rockets players, and he takes every possession and he plays really hard.
And I think they needed it because if you think about the switch that they made to go from Moses Moody to Buddy Hield in the starting lineup, I don't know what the thought process was. Is it as simple as, hey, Moses is cold, let's try someone else? But the risk you take there is Moses Moody has become such a wonderful on-ball defender, and then you put Buddy in, you're immediately thinking to yourself, are we trying to hit some threes but losing something on the defensive end? So for him to come out and, as Steve said, set the tone defensively, that's huge. That's huge because that's the risk you were taking. That's the gamble with that move.
Right, and I do think that it's partly faith in Buddy, who is playing well, but it's also, I think Moses is in a pretty deep funk. And I remember noting in the second half when he came out, he played 8 minutes in the first half. He went 1 for 5, and he just doesn't look to have the same level of confidence and aggressiveness on either side. And then he came out in the second half, and it was a quick trigger for Moses Moody. So
exactly.
I don't know if he's falling all the way out of the rotation, but it's pretty clear to me that for now anyway, he's lost his starting spot. And it just feels like that they've lost a little faith in what Moses is doing.
I would think, but I mean, he's still going to get in there and we've seen him hit shots before If he can find it, I think he's still an important player because he is a two-way player, and who knows where the matchups are going to take us. And let's not act today like all of a sudden Buddy Hield is Mr. Consistency over here. Who knows where this story is going to go next? And obviously the next chapter is tomorrow night, and it'll be right here on 95.7 The Game. Let's go to T in Oakland. Hi, T. What's going on? Thank you for calling.
Hey guys, how you doing, man?
What's up?
Yesterday, Mark, you highlighted a video for Dibs with Dylan Brooks, double swiping, trying to hurt Steph. Last night, I don't know if you guys saw it, but you were there, so you probably did. When he reached in and tried to get the ball, I think he was trying to do something else right there. Then the other observation I saw, you were talking about players talking about huddles and stuff. Second half, Draymond was actually talking to Atari Eason. I read his lips. He was kind of trying to say, my bad, bro. I really wasn't trying to hurt you. And Iman Thompson going to walk away from the free throw line and come and tell his teammate, hey, you don't need to be talking to him. Right there shows inexperience. Man, you're supposed to be concentrating on making that free throw that you missed instead of going over there telling, your teammate that you don't need to be talking to Draymond. So what I think happens is the Rockets pay too much attention to stuff that doesn't matter as opposed to concentrating on the stuff that's going to win the game. And being that the Warriors have so much experience, they don't let that type of stuff get under their skin because they've been there before, So I'm really looking for the Warriors to close this thing out in Houston because we older guys, we need some rest. And I'm going to stick with Steve Kerr, the decisions that he makes, because as I always say, I'm never going to second-guess a guy who has 4 championships and 5 as a player, which equals 9. So thank you for letting me call.
Hey, T, thank you. I think those are some pretty astute observations, actually. And what he's, that thing he pointed out at the end where Draymond, who's already gotten tangled up in the previous half with Tari Eason, it's what led to the flagrant foul and all of the discussion about it. Draymond did have that moment where he was over with Tari Eason in the second half. And I don't know, a lot of people have been like, Dre's apologizing. I don't know if he's apologizing. I doubt he used the word I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But I think there was a veteran player, young player thing that Draymond has shown he values. Like at a lot of press conferences, he'll talk about the opponent and be like, this guy, like he did it with Jaren Jackson a couple of weeks ago after Memphis got beat. He's like, Jaren's got to learn to defend without fouling. He's a good young player. Draymond's taking that elder statesman thing, which is funny sometimes because of the way he acts.
Yeah.
But he does it. And I think he was trying to take a moment and just explain the situation, but pay it a little respect and give a little nod in some sort of a way to Tari. And yes, Amen Thompson came over and tried to break it up. And Draymond shoved him out of the way. He's like, get out of here. I'm talking to this guy. Bottom line, I think T's right. Amen is bothered by all of this. Point Warriors.
Well, I think a lot of them, and T's point is well made. And if you look at the guys who are playing a lot, Jabari Smith Jr., he's 21. He'll be 22 in May. Amen Thompson is 22. Alperen Şengün is 22.
Yep.
Jalen Green is 22. And I don't know if you remember when you were 22 and you had your S together, no doubt, but not like you did when you were 30 or 32. And so, just a certain amount of maturity. And these guys are in the biggest spot in their professional lives, a playoff series in a building against a bunch of OGs who, many of whom are champions. And so, yeah, you want to get every edge possible. And if you're Amen Thompson, you're probably thinking part of that edge is, making sure you don't consort with the enemy. And we got to make sure that we are, totally at these guys and enemies the whole way. And, these Draymond and Jimmy and Steph, they've all been in the league long enough to understand that there are moments where you can show, grace and explain and be a vet and all the rest of it.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Again, none of this is all that much of a surprise. I don't know if this series is going to end tomorrow. I don't know if it's going to end on Friday. I think it's going to be one of those two. That would be my guess. And, for those of us who do this for a living, dude, one of the reasons we love sports is because it surprises you so often. But this one hasn't. It's literally going exactly the way most of us thought, which is It's tight. It's competitive. It's super chippy. The Warriors have a little edge, and it's all based on their brains. And that's exactly what we're all seeing. And so when I hear, and by the way, Grandy, this Amen Thompson thing, was that after the game? When was that?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're in trouble. They're in trouble. They're in trouble. And it's not just as, oh, well, duh, Mark, they're down 3-1. No, they're in trouble because I think their minds are in the wrong place.
Well, I think that they're in trouble in part of because of what you're saying, their minds, but also because if you look at the games that have taken place, like last night is the game that they're supposed to win. You shoot it great, and you don't turn it over a bunch, and you have your one unguardable guy play unguardably, and you get a contribution from Fred VanVleet that was not only unexpected but spectacular, and you held their best player, the best player, to a very mediocre game. That's the game that Houston is supposed to win. And then the other game that they were supposed to win, they actually did win, where you had Jalen Green go off and have a game like Fred VanVleet did last night where he was mostly unguardable, and the Warriors were ordinary, and the Warriors were able to kind of relax a bit because they had already earned the split. So that was the game that Houston was supposed to win, and they did. And then last night was the one that they had that game. You know, Grandy had the stat where 39 of the 48 minutes, the Rockets were unbelievably dominant. And I know he's cherry-picking minutes, but the Rockets would look at that game and say, outside of those two crazy bursts, we were the better team. Right. And yet you got down to the end and you had an ill-timed three. You fouled a three-point shooter, and you made just enough mistakes. The backcourt pass that Steiny mentioned earlier, I had forgotten about. You had turnovers, you fouled shooters, and you lost the game.
I agree with the entire assessment, but my mind even goes a step further when you talk about all those things that are sort of frustrating for a team. Anytime you lose a game where you're like, dude, we should have had that game. Okay, my next question is, though, where's your mind after the game? And if you're
in the crapper.
But what are you focused on? If you're focused on, look, these are all the mistakes we made, but we're right there. We're heading home. Like, here's what we need to do different.
Right.
Okay, let's work with that. But where's Amen Thompson's mind?
On Draymond Green.
You're done.
Yep.
You're done.
It's going to be tough.
And listen, it's 9 seconds of his life, so I don't know that that's what he's actually going to bed thinking about, but it is all, look, he brought it up. That's not what the question was about. And if he's on the plane today, heading for Houston, shaking his head and muttering to himself, because damn it, they let that Draymond, he gets away with this and that and the other, and he talks and he won't stop. If that's where your mind is, you're done. You're done. Draymond got you. He got you. That's exactly what he's trying to do. And so I take a lot of comfort out of that sound clip, actually.
Yeah, I mean, you can take comfort out of it. I take maximum comfort out of the fact that they're up 3-1 and that they won the game the way that they won it. And also, you know, the blueprint for Houston to win a game, it's a tough one. And you're asking either Jalen Green or you're asking Fred VanVleet to again have a game like they've already had. And their track record would not show you that that is something that happens all the time. Şengün can go for 34 and 14, and he might at home because he's that good and he has that much of an edge on most of the Warriors, but that's probably not going to be enough to win 3 games, let alone 1 game.
Yeah, I mean, so much of this is the mental approach. So much of this is also just that coaching battle. And I've said, I think Udoka is a good coach. I know right now that's not a popular thing to say because everyone thinks he's this awful human being who has sent his robots out to kill Steph Curry. But he's obviously done a very, very good job this year, but he's also been outcoached. He's totally been outcoached in the key moments by Steve Kerr. And I do think that one of them last night was not just that they went directly against Draymond Green in that final possession, but where they went at Draymond Green. Giving Şengün the ball out at the 3-point line extended and having him try to shake down Draymond Green. Yes, he got off a decent shot, but I cannot think that that's your highest percentage point Also, by the way, when you're down 1, if you're down 1, here's why I would have gone to Amen Thompson. If you're down 1, I'm going to have somebody fly at the basket, because if they don't make that bucket, they might get fouled. They might get fouled, and a free throw trip in that situation, dude, all you got to do is make 1 or 2, and you can extend this basketball game. But instead, you went at Draymond Green, and you knew damn well he was not going to foul, or they were not going to call it. And he took it personally. Here's Draymond, in fact, talking about that very final play.
He likes the ISO right in the middle of the paint. He started coming downhill. I gave a little ground. And Stack always tells us it's a time that you have to get serious. He says it's time to get, and you just try to pick that point, I want to pick it too early where, he's facing me, and now I pick up a cheap one, so try to find that sweet spot and where to get serious, as Stack says, and I thought I found a good spot. He took a deep jump hook.
It just, the breakdown there is so elite, and talking about Jerry Stackhouse, defensive coordinator, and as he's saying that, I'm watching the play, and, at some point, you got to make a stand, and Draymond's shuffle, and he gets to about 13 feet from the hoop, and he gets his hand on him, and it's just, whoop, there's the wall, and Şengün's not going to move him off the spot, and so then you got to settle for that 11-footer, and, Şengün would have loved a 6-footer, and Draymond probably would have wanted to push him out a little further, but if you're Draymond, you drew the line right there. This is where you're going to have to take the shot from. You mentioned Amen Thompson, not even on the court on that final sequence. So, and
that's surprising to me.
And I do think that your point is a good one about, give him the ball. He was going by people.
He was flying. Yep. He is such a good young player. And so, but I also get it from Udoka's standpoint. You look at Houston, that moment is built for their weakness. They don't know. And Reggie Miller was talking about this all throughout the broadcast. You're down 1, you've got the ball. And the Rockets are maybe the only playoff team in the league where you're like, I don't know what we're doing. I don't know who we're giving it to. There's no other team in the playoffs right now where you don't know what's happening. Minnesota, here you go, Anthony.
Right.
Lakers, here's your 2-man game with LeBron and Luka. We know exactly. Shai Gilgeous, we know what we're doing. Kawhi, Jokic.
Yep.
We know exactly what we're doing. Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler. The Rockets are like, I
think they know, but the problem...
I think we're going to go to Şengün.
Well, I think that they're definitive in that that's their best play, but the problem, and as I'm watching it again and again, the problem with this approach is you don't have to double the goon. You've got Draymond Green. And I'm looking at
the goon.
So you've got Steven Adams fighting Kevon under the hoop before Şengün even shoots. They're already fighting for the rebound. And you've got Van Vliet, Brooks, and Smith Jr. all posted up waiting for a possible kick, but they're guarded because you don't need to help Draymond Green. So Şengün is working on Draymond. You don't need to double because Draymond's that good. So now you've got these 3 spot-up shooters who can't be spot-up shooters because they're being guarded by players who aren't going to help off of them. So, to your point, I do think, outside of a Şengün one-on-one against Draymond, which is a good idea for Houston because he's that good, but the other one would be Amen to the hoop.
Yeah. He was unbelievable.
And he was going by everybody.
Yeah, he was flying over everybody.
So now if he goes by Gary, for example, now you're going to have to help. And now maybe you have a secondary option off of the Amen Thompson drive.
Let's go to Blake and Orinda. Hey, Blake, thank you for calling Willard and Dibs. What's happening?
Hey, guys. How are you?
We're good, man. What's happening?
Just driving the kiddo home from daycare, but I got a funny question for you, a little off the serious topic.
All right.
Who do you think the league dislikes more, Dillon Brooks or Draymond Green?
Who do you think the league dislikes more? Draymond Green or Dillon Brooks?
It's a great question.
And that.
Well, I don't.
And that's a great question.
Thank you, Buster.
I want to be thoughtful with my answer and say I don't think that they dislike either one of them.
It's not just the spirit of the question, and the answer is Dillon Brooks. I think that Dillon Brooks causes the league more consternation than Draymond Green. That would be my take.
I get where you're coming from. Yeah, I think you got to remember that Draymond Green is a much bigger name than Dillon Brooks. He's part of a much bigger property Draymond Green makes more money for the league than Dillon Brooks does. So I guess I'll agree with Dibs from that standpoint. Now, Dillon Brooks has never had to be suspended for an indefinite period of time and go to counseling and do all of that stuff. But I also think that this stuff lands with us in maybe a more serious way than it should. I don't think the league is very worried about guys who play really physical and build names for themselves, and they play the bad guy role. You need the bad guy. What the hell's Star Wars if all you've got is the rebellion?
Yeah, it's just a bunch of guys flying around in ships.
I think that players around the league dislike Draymond Green more than Dillon Brooks.
Same if you say fans too.
Yes, but I think that's because he's better at it. Yeah, like Draymond, exactly. Draymond is better at getting under your skin, and then he's better at winning and looking at you and laughing.
Well, he's a better player than Dillon Brooks. I think that the league would be less inclined to support Dillon Brooks because of some of the incidents that he has been a part of where people have gotten injured.
Stand on it. Yeah, I hear that. I don't think that, look, it's not like Draymond Green hasn't been part of stuff where guys could have gotten injured.
Correct.
They just didn't. But I'm with you from the standpoint that I've always drawn a line. Like, Draymond has done plenty of inappropriate stuff. But Draymond, I don't think, in my opinion, and this may sound ridiculous, but he's never broken the code that Steve Kerr was talking about. I'm sure there are people who think he broke a different code, and I'd buy that.
Yep.
But he's never taken somebody's career and
put it in jeopardy,
held it in the balance.
Yep.
And I have seen Dillon do that.
Yeah, we saw it, absolutely. And, interesting with the technical fouls as just one metric, the two of them are always among the league leaders. And Dillon actually got over 16 this year, so he did get suspended because he gets 16 in the regular year. And Draymond wisely didn't get to that number. And right now, Draymond's got the edge on him in the postseason. He's got 3. I think Dillon's got just the 1. They each have a flagrant. So, Draymond probably more at risk, considering it looks like their team might play a little bit deeper than the Rockets.
I do want to go out to the Boxer and Gerson work injury attorneys text line because 510 said, hey, guys, the rebellion was the good guys. I know. That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
The league, this is an entertainment entity. They need bad guys too. The Super Bowl, I often argue when people are like, I'm so sick of the Patriots. I'm like, perfect. Like, you need a bad guy. Like, you need someone to root against also, not just root for, right? Like, that's why the Harlem Globetrotters have to, throw water all over everybody. There's no bad guys. They have to be just wildly...
the Washington Generals.
They're not really bad guys. They're just there.
Well, they're bad at winning.
Right.
Like the Washington Wizards.
Right, but you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, what's more fun? When the 49ers play... Who should I use here?
The Cowboys.
Well, no, that was going to be the example of the villain.
Okay.
Who's the milquetoast team?
Like the Panthers.
Yeah. What's more entertaining? Niners Panthers or Niners Cowboys?
Yeah.
Got to have a bad guy.
Got to.
That's the role that Dillon and Draymond play.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah!
Draymond does it better than anybody.
Just one quick Star Wars related note, and it's not officially Star Wars because of copyright infringement, but Bart is doing something special on May the 4th.
Oh, May the 4th be with you.
They're doing like a special Bart train. It's like a Bart train that's going to go all around the bay for, I think, 2 hours nonstop with space-themed art and other activities inside. Bart's trying to become a fun thing. Not just a transit company. No, I'm serious.
Okay.
They've done a singles night, and they're doing more and more things that are just outside of just general transit. So this May the 4th special ride sold out in 90 minutes.
Oh, I bet.
All the May the 4th people, they're all in on it. So anyway, this is just a quick sidebar.
No, I'm into it.
May the 4th.
I'm into it. I mean, I'm not going to go buy a ticket. Mainly because
you can't now.
It's sold out anyway.
Right.
But anyway.
It sounds fun, but for me, let's do it for an hour. 2 gets a little bit long,
Well, can you get off?
No.
It doesn't stop?
Nonstop. Yeah, they're not going to stop at any station.
That's a long time on a BART train.
Yeah, there's like a band on there, and maybe refreshments.
Yeah, we got food. If we get food, I can stay if we get the food. You know what I mean? It was Star Wars related food. Yeah. I don't know what it would be.
I'm going to eat it.
Yeah.
One more quick May note.
Let's go.
NFL schedule release May 14th. So I guess it's 2 weeks from tomorrow. So we can all get excited about
May the 14th be with you.
It will be with me.
Okay.
NFL schedule coming out in 2 weeks.
Shake your head at me, Grandy.
Lucas made the same joke literally a half second before you did, and they both were bad.
That's Lucas's fault.
Both bad.
You
both
you
get a
didn't
one.
turn your mic on. You have no proof.
And he was right.
Air's all I got over here, okay? I don't have the option to turn my mic off or just leave the show for an hour like you do.
Oh.
That's a good point.
Sorry.
Got a tweet.
I got a tweet. Okay.
What do you mean? You tweet from here.
Another good point. You don't have Twitter capabilities on your laptop in the studio? What are you looking around for? All right. Anyway, 888-957-9570. If you are just joining us and you're like, dude, where the hell's Steve Kerr?
Yeah.
What the hell? Steve Kerr and the Warriors, I don't want to say they arrived late to Houston. I think they arrived mostly on time. But anyway, process took a little longer than expected. Some traffic going through Houston at rush hour. They wanted to get back to the hotel. And they're just, I think, arriving shortly. And so we're going to push that thing to Thursday. And remember earlier, I was like, remind me to tell you about a text exchange.
Oh, that's right.
Where two, I think, fair-minded people can look at the exact same situation very differently. So lovely Christy was like, oh, you did Steve Kerr at 5. So I had texted her during her break. I'm like, no, because she wanted to listen. I'm like, no, traffic, whatever. And so we're going to do it Thursday. She's like, yeah, oh, no, that's great. You can do it right before Game 6.
Okay. I
said...
Is the wedding officially off? Because that is... Honestly...
I was like, wait...
Hold up. Wait a minute.
I said, do you mean before Game 1 of round 2?
Maybe she meant Game 6 overall of the playoffs.
And
aggregating them.
She just wrote, yup. Which is dismissive. It's dismissive. I know her. Yeah. It's not like, oh, yeah, no, that's what I meant. It's like, yeah, whatever, bud. Whatever. Where do you want to watch the game tomorrow night?
Right. Turns out she's taking the Rockets and laying the 4. Cuckoo.
Yeah, she should have taken the Bucks.
Yeah.
And the Bucks are up by 4 with 53 seconds left to go.
Yeah, if you're a Pacer fan, you need overtime.
Yes, you do. That happens sometimes,
For you, it does.
Giannis just missed a free throw.
There you go.
Just to let you know. But anyway.
Yeah, 4:30 tip tomorrow. 4:30. Yeah. So make sure you, and I know you mentioned it earlier, but make sure you get all of your various ducks in a row early on. That way you can lock in Dub Nation for a potential closeout game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, make your plans. This is not a 7 o'clock start. This is a 4:30 start. So use it as an excuse to get off work early or whatever, but get to wherever you're going as early as possible. 4:30 tip tomorrow night for the Rockets and the Warriors. And it is one of those like comfortable but not comfortable situations. We know all the numbers. If you're up 3-1, you've pretty much got it, right? Except for 2 things. One, we're Warrior fans, so we remember 3 games to 1 and what that can mean. And 2, when you're up 3-1, but you're not the team that had started the series with home court advantage, it can quickly feel like a very stressful situation. In other words, if the Rockets do win tomorrow night, it puts a hell of a lot of pressure on Friday night at Chase Center because you got one shot. You got one shot in your home building to close the thing out. You do not want this to go to Game 7 for so many reasons.
You don't, but...
the Warriors do not. I don't think Jimmy Butler's butt has Game 7 in him because then you got to turn right around probably with one day off. Even if you win it, you got to turn around with one day off and go start in Minnesota.
It can be tough, and teams that were up 3-1 that were forced to play a Game 7 are 22-13 all time. And I'll look at the exact home road breakdown of that, but teams who were up 3-1 still won the majority, 63% of those series against the team trying to fight back from 3-1 down.
Yeah. No. Look, the Warriors are in a wonderful spot. This is, quite frankly, it's actually funny with how much stress has gone into this series. It's actually funny how much of it has, when you look back on it, gone exactly the way many of us thought that it would. A lot of us thought, Game 1 is the easy one to steal on the road, and the Warriors in that second quarter were so brilliant and putting on a clinic, as a good friend of mine said at the time, and then off they went to steal Game 1. And then you get Game 2 energy from the desperate team. You also had injury issues and 2 starters out in the end and all of that, and so you lose that game. And that was kind of predictable. You had said it, in fact. You're like, Rockets they're gonna win this game.
Yep.
Game 2. And then you're like, well, but the Warriors can probably defend home court. And as difficult as it was, and playing one of the games without Jimmy Butler, they did it. And so now the numbers add up to what we thought, and the reason adds up to what we thought. The Warriors' experience, to me, has absolutely been the reason that they are up 3-1. Now, where does it go from here? I don't know what Houston's got tomorrow night. I wonder where their heads are at. I am more confident right now in the Warriors tomorrow night than I was at the beginning of the show. How about that?
Interesting, because I would say I'm probably less confident in Game 5.
Why?
Just because of what it took to win Game 4 and the short turnaround. They're already there, and Houston's going to play with a certain amount of desperation. And I just think that, not that the Warriors are playing with house money, because you can never have that approach in a best of 7 when you're up 3-1, and the Warriors would love to get the additional rest. And if the Lakers can beat Minnesota tomorrow as well, then you would have a rest advantage over Minnesota in the next round. I just see a Houston team that'll be playing with a certain amount of desperation, and at home, it's literally their last stand.
Absolutely, but here's what I'm thinking. I think they'll come out with their incredible desperation and all of that energy, and the fans are going to be turned all the way up. But do you know how quickly this thing can sort of go on a mental switch? There's 2 things that I think could happen tomorrow night. If they happen early enough, they don't need to happen right away, but if they happen at all in the first half, maybe even early in the second half, I think they can turn this whole building in the Warriors' favor. Number one, if you've got Rockets that are worried about the refs, if they're worried about Draymond's talking too much, and we don't like the way that this thing is going, we're not getting the calls. The other thing that we've watched turn that building, that city is so triggered by Steph Curry three-pointers. They have so much PTSD, as their own broadcaster said. There's so much history there that if either of those things happen, if they get some tough calls or if Steph Curry is hot, I think that you could end up with a team that starts to question itself as that one gets down the stretch. And they do not want to be in a close game with the Warriors in the fourth quarter. I don't think that they will have confidence.
Well, I think that it's better for Houston to be in a close game. If they get down by 15 or more early in the game, I think that's when Houston would be in real peril, because then the self-doubt really starts to creep in. If it's a close game and you get down to the end of it and you're Houston and you're just a young team, you feel like you've been there. You've been close already with the Warriors. None of these games have been blowouts. So the closer the game stays, the more I think it favors Houston at home. Of all the series, Mark, since the expansion in 1984, actually this is all series ever, best of 7, the team that's up 3-1, they win 60% of the time in Game 5. So more than half of these babies, they just end in 5. 60%, it ends in 5. The team up 3-1 goes on to just close it out.
I wonder about home and road on that, though. I do wonder about home and road, because I would imagine most teams that are up 3-1 are the teams that had Game 1 and 2 at home and therefore have Game 5 at home. Warriors have to do this on the road. But yeah, I like they're going to have a great a great shot tomorrow night. By the way, one of the things you brought up that you really wanted to ask Steve, and we can definitely ask them this on Thursday, depending on where the series is at and whatnot, but was he planning to foul on the final play with Fred VanVleet? And what was his thought process also when the Rockets went at Draymond Green directly on their final possession? So here's what was going through his head in the final seconds of the game.
Well, what was going through my head was call a timeout. Either way, made or missed, we wanted to get the timeout so we get Steph back in. I just thought, Dre played phenomenal defense with 5 fouls. Most of the fourth quarter he's out there, and so he did a brilliant job, and we were able to get Şengün forced out a little bit further than he'd been for most of the fourth, so it made it a tougher shot. And then, as I said, Jimmy made an amazing rebound.
Yeah, that rebound for me, going back to where we started the show, that might be, and you tell me, you were there. That sounded over the TV like that was as loud as Chase Center has ever been.
It was a humongous roar, and that was the other end of the floor. But just to see that, and then the resultant reaction, Pods is pumping the fist, and Jimmy's stalking his way down, and you see Dylan Brooks is asking, was it a timeout or what was it? And no, it was a foul, and now it's free throws. But there were a number of roars, I think, that were as loud as that, which really made me feel good about that is now somewhat of a home court for the Warriors.
No doubt. We're sponsored by Ceremony Ford. Employee pricing for all is on now at Ceremony Ford in Colma. You pay what we pay. No markups, no nonsense. Stop by Ceremony Boulevard or shop 24/7 at ceremonyford.com. Ceremony Ford, from America, for America. 888-957-9570 is the number. This is Willard and Dibs.
Back to Şengün up top. Şengün dribbles on Draymond. 9 seconds, 8 seconds to the paint. Spins, jump hook for 14. It's up and no good. Rebound Butler. Butler is fouled with 4 seconds to go. Draymond got the stop when the Warriors had to have it.
Stand on it. Stand on what you say. Stand on what you do. Bay Area is Draymond Green, and you're listening to Willard and Dibbs on 95.7 The Game.
Okay, Day-Day.
Day-Day. Day-Day.
Out to the Boxer and Gerson work injury attorneys text line. 510. Why do you guys, not Gee, we're not Gee. Why do you guys keep talking about Minnesota as if they've already won? I was so confused that I had to go look it up.
You had to Google it.
Why do we hit it? Okay, so
You got to Google it.
when you're up 3-1, we start to make an assumption in life that you're going to win. It's not right 100% of the time, but almost nothing is in sports. Look, I actually think the Lakers will win tomorrow night. I do. And the Rockets might win tomorrow night. They might, for sure. Like, they're both favored to do so, both of those teams. But do I think that the Warriors will play Minnesota in the next round? I do. Is that done? No. Is it for sure? Absolutely not. But, again, the percentages, when you're up 3-1 or what?
95.5.
Okay, so
13 times a team has come back from 3-1 down.
It's like when Johnny Cueto used to come to the plate, I assumed he was not going to get a hit because 95% of the time he didn't.
That's probably about right, too, the numbers.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm sorry if we're sounding a little presumptuous. I don't want to do that with the Warriors because I feel like that's bad juju, but it's a little bit easier when it's the out-of-town series.
It is.
I think the Warriors in Minnesota are likely to play in the next round.
And historically, it would tell you that it doesn't happen very often. And if I just go back and look at the cases where it did happen, of the 13 times a team came back from a 3-1 deficit, 2 of them were in the bubble. And I don't know if we're just going to not count those. The Nuggets against the Jazz first round, the Nuggets against the Clippers in the semifinals. So I do think that that's a little bit of a wrinkle because those games were all played in Orlando.
And and in front of no one.
Right.
So if you think that the crowd is a factor in a game, that's different. Here's the way I always look at the bubble stuff, because as you know, I've always given the Dodgers a third of a championship.
Right.
A third of a ring.
And the Lakers too.
Well, no, the Lakers is different because they actually played a full season. They played,
not quite.
Close.
Yeah.
They played a season.
They played about 66 games.
It's just a different season. And you didn't have to play road games, but so did the teams that you were playing not play road games. So, do I give them a full ring? I don't know if it's a full ring, but it's a hell of a lot closer to one than what the Dodgers did in a 50-game season. So, but yeah, you're right. And that's interesting because you don't have to deal with road situations in game 7s and all of that.
Right. And so they did it in back-to-back rounds. So that's 2 of the 13 times it's happened it happened in the bubble. And the other 2 that are the most recent were the Warriors in 2016, where they snatched one and then they blew one against the Cavs. So outside of that, it's only happened 9 times ever.
Ever.
So we're not advancing Minnesota, but we kind of are.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Highly likely.
95.5%.
Highly likely. Let's go to Will in the East Bay. Hi, Will. Thanks for calling.
Well, thanks for taking my call. Hey, guys, scrape the asterisk stuff off. Just please, okay? That's not why I called, though. The reason I called, the one thing I love about that game is the scrums, conflicts, Dylan Brooks, looking at Curry getting in Dylan Brooks' face. God, my God. You know, this is slap shot, Paul Newman all over again. And you know what? The Warriors are good at it, and we love watching it. But the reason the Warriors won that game, if any team was put off, it was the Rockets. Every time they went to that line, you know, especially, you know, the Turkish, you know, phenom, they screwed up. They messed up all those free throws. That was the game right there. You can look at, you know, at Jimmy, and you look at the, you know, Draymond with that great defensive play. No. If any team was put off more, you know, by the disruption, in the scrums and the players and players' faces, it was the Rockets. And the Warriors were the benefactors of that. And that is why they won that game.
Well, the beauty of it, Will, is that everybody gets to look at a game and pick the one thing that matters to them and say that's why the game went that way. I can't argue with you. The free throw line was huge in the game. The Warriors were very good at it. The Rockets weren't. But I can also pick at a bunch of other things. The one I like to choose is turnovers, because it has been definitive so far in this series. The team with fewer turnovers wins the game, and it happened again last night. But for me, all of these things end up in the same bucket. They're all execution related. So I think it's funny when people do that. Well, the Rockets were the better team, but they didn't execute the free throws. Well, executing free throws is part of being the better team.
It's part of basketball,
so you didn't do that, so you weren't the better team. I don't care if you got outplayed in 8 out of 10 places. You have to outplay the team in all the places if you want to win a road game in the playoffs against a really good team. Therefore, Rockets didn't do it, and therefore they didn't win.
Yeah, and you look at the final 4 minutes, and you had, I think, 2, if not 3 Rockets turnovers, 1 ill-timed three-point shot from a guy who hadn't really been playing all night, and then the desperation 3 at the end that didn't go, and mixed in there is a Draymond Green defensive stop for the ages. So when it came to execution, the Warriors weren't perfect, and they actually missed on back-to-back trips. They weren't necessarily layups, but they were shots near the cup.
Makeable.
Jimmy had one, and Buddy had one.
At least.
Yeah, and it was like, oh, man, Buddy had the one jumper in the midi, as they would say, and it rattled in and out like 4 times. So the execution wasn't perfect on all sides.
No question about it. All right, we got Triples for Autism brought to you by Pettinelli Financial Partners and the Autism Society San Francisco Bay Area. Warriors made 17 three-pointers last night. Damn right. It means another donation from Pettinelli to the Autism Society San Francisco. Pods had 6. Buddy Buckets with 3. Steph, Draymond, Quentin Post, 2 each. That's the 62nd donation of the season for Triples for Autism. If you'd like to make a donation to autism yourself or get involved, go to sfautismsociety.org. And that is Triples for Autism, brought to you by Pettinelli Financial Partners in the Autism Society San Francisco Bay Area. Pettinelli here for you, offering financial guidance and support throughout life's milestones. Go to PettinelliFP.com. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, right?
Oh, my goodness.
You didn't see it, did you?
No, I saw enough of it.
Dribbled it out of bounds. The Bucks.
The Milwaukee Bucks were up by 8 with less than a minute to go? Or was it 7?
Might have been 7.
They just lost, and Giannis's Bucks career might have just come to an end.
They were up 1. The Pacers were trying to trap, and then they were trying to foul, and Milwaukee just dribbled it out of bounds.
Right, and then Halliburton scored. And what I didn't see is then what the Bucks did next, because there was still 17 seconds left on the clock.
Oh, then I'm talking about the possession you missed, where...
No, I saw that.
Halliburton scored, the Pacers pressed, they trapped, and then the Bucks dribbled it out of bounds off the guy's leg, and then I believe Halliburton scored again to put him up 1. Milwaukee desperation heave, no good, series over.
They were done.
Done.
Like this game was over.
Over.
And now it is over.
It's over.
But the other team has more points.
The Pacers.
The Pacers are moving on to the Eastern Conference semifinals, and Giannis Antetokounmpo may or may not have just played his last game with Milwaukee. Who knows? Who knows?
Who knows?
You know what's about to happen on this radio station?
Oh, I sure do.
Do you?
Rain dance.
Damn right. Damn right.
Rain dance.
Warriors Roundtable.
Gucci.
Kevin Dana, Gary St. Jean.
Gucci.
Full hour brought to you by Fremont Bank. Here for you, here for good. Do you want to do it again tomorrow?
I do.
Will you?
Nope.
Okay. Grandy and I go shorty. It's game 5. We will be with you tomorrow. Thank you so much for all the calls today. That was a ton of fun. For Dibs, for Grandy, for Lucas, I'm Mark. Shoot your shot. That's all you got.